Digital marketing for HVAC and home service businesses.
Strategies and stories from industry experts to help you succeed.
Everyone, welcome to the show. I'm here with my bro, Cliff. I'm going to let you know about where we're tuning in from, his business, and I'll leave it to you. Please let people know. Introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, this is Cliff DiBenedetto. I'm with Island Tree Style Maui, and we're in beautiful Kihei. We're on the south shore of Maui right now, and it's a little bit blustery outside. It's a really nice, cool Kihei day. So I'm in the tree business. I am basically, what I do is I trim, prune, and care for trees. I've been doing it professionally for about 3 years. And I got started when I first came to Hawaii about 6 or 7 years ago. I was living in a community. I was living in a permaculture community on the Big Island. And a friend of mine who lived there, he was asking me about climbing coconut trees if I was interested. And I came with him. And at the time, all I wanted to do was, to check out different communities. And so I realized that was a really easy way to get into some of the cooler communities, was to be a coconut climber. And so I did that, and I got better and better at it. And then eventually, I was living in this community on Maui, and I was either going to become, I wanted basically something I could do that was really valuable for the community, not only where I lived, but also the neighbors, so that I could eventually phase into making money and serving the greater community. So it was either going to be carpentry or tree work. And carpentry was a little bit more accessible in the sense that more people do it. But the thing is that the carpenter where I lived was really hard to work with. He was very picky about who he worked with. And there was a couple guys that were around. There's one guy working on our property that was doing tree work, and he took me under his wing, and he made it easy for me to get in.
That's
and
awesome.
So he encouraged me just to buy a couple of things, to buy like a harness, a top handle chainsaw, a couple of ropes and things like that. And his advice to me is, if you want to get into tree work, get your ass up in a tree.
There you go.
And so that was how I started. I had the fortune of getting to practice on the property I was living at, because there was a 6-acre property with tons of trees.
You say 60 acre?
A 6-acre property with tons of trees that I could do as part of my work exchange.
When was this? What year?
It was during it was right around during COVID. It was during
probably
COVID.
Like 2021.
Yeah, 2020 or 21.
Yeah.
And so I started climbing, and then our neighborhood, because it is a very underserved market. Some of the neighbors, people that came through our community, they heard that I was doing tree work, and they asked, like, "Hey, can you come do some tree work on my property? That there's nobody around that does that type of work." And so I started doing it for, really, really affordably, and it just that's how it got started.
Nice. So that's how you got started in the industry. You referenced that this story when the guy helped you out getting started, recommended you buying a harness. It's kind of back in 2020. Right now it's 2025. So it sounds like there was like a year, if I'm piecing the timeline together, it was like a year of you learning, serving the land you were living on, serving the community, learning from someone, and then you started your business maybe 2022 or the end of 2021?
I started doing work probably towards the end of 2021, but I'd say I got serious about it maybe late 2022, early 2023, where I really decided I was gonna
more
go
trucks,
for it.
Equipment, employees, or contractors, stuff like that.
Yeah, totally.
So that took like it sounds like about 2 years then to be like you got into the industry, were working, learning, and then you were like, oh wow, I'm going to create my own business out of this and serve like a little bit more than just my backyard on the island, and spread your wings a little bit.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, cool. That's awesome. What would you say was the biggest aha moment, or or a couple? Like, what are the couple moments, or a moment where you remember being like, oh wow, I want to make a career out of this, or I want to take this beyond just something I'm doing right now and plan a little bit of my future around it?
Honestly, it was having the teacher in my life that gave me permission to just go learn how to do it on my own. Because I know some guys who are wanting to get into tree work right now, and they're telling me they've worked with other guys, and the other guys have been really dismissive of them, of like, oh, you need to go get your arborist certificate. You need to take these classes. You need to do all these things. Don't even try. And so I feel like the fact that I had somebody that encouraged me early on, and that wasn't putting up a stop sign for me, has been. And he was right. He told me if I ever have any questions, I can go on YouTube. He told me to go work for other people, which I did. I worked for, I don't know, 3 or 4 other guys, and I worked for one big company, and I got to see how different people do different things, and that was incredibly helpful for me, and it gave me a lot of confidence.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I also, with what I do for work in marketing, I was working in sales, and I started to do my own marketing to have more leads, better leads, and then I slowly came to this conclusion that I actually like marketing a little bit better than sales. And then as far as marketing goes, there were 2 friends of mine who wanted to start an e-commerce company, and so I did that with them to really go all in on the like digital marketing stuff, and be a part of a team, and really just like get my ass in the game. Like you said, get your ass up in the tree. I had to get my ass in the game. So that's cool to hear you talk about it, and just so awesome that man who gave you this advice and kind of helped you get started, not only did he just help you, but I know you have clients that you've helped and people that you've provided jobs to, and more people have been helped just beyond you because he helped you. It kind of exponentially spread, and I kind of love when I hear that happen, because that's how I want to live my life. If someone passes something along to me, I want to spread it out and share that benefit with the world. Oh, cool. I got a question here. We went over some questions before the call, just before the podcast here, to be prepared. But running your tree care business here on the island comes with unique challenges. I mean, it's a beautiful place. Lots of beautiful trees. Things are growing all the time, but sometimes it's really rugged out there. Sometimes the conditions can probably, like storm work, different things come about. Like, how do you overcome those challenges, and what are some of those challenges like operating business out here in Maui?
Yeah, I would say specific to Maui is the demographics here are interesting. On one hand, there's a lot of people who have a lot of money, and they own these 7-8 figure properties that I have the privilege of getting to work on. Then on the other hand, there's a lot of people who they just want to surf and go to the beach, and they don't really want to work. So what I found, especially when I was first getting going, is there just weren't a lot of people who wanted to work, and then some people who did want to work, they want to show up in slippers and board shorts and things like that, or they just weren't on. Just like the mainland, just like people are a lot more on time. They're just kind of like the island time here, and so the most difficult thing for me pertaining to Maui and tree work is finding people who are at a certain level, because it's not like tree work, because it's so mobile. I'm on different property every day. It's ideal to have somebody who has their own vehicle, has their own equipment, so I'm not having to lend them a saw or other equipment. And the other thing on top of that is the whole liability thing. I work with subcontractors, and so definition that subcontractors should have their own equipment, and so it causes some legal challenges to basically operate as a contractor with subcontractors, and then on the other end, the really talented guys, they all have their own companies, and if I am going to be able to hire them, they're $600 to $1,000+ a day.
Yeah, makes sense. And most service industry professionals I speak with, business owners, there's 2 things. There's fulfilling the work, and then there's once there's a team in place and more people than just the business owner relying on a paycheck, then it's keeping enough work in the queue to keep those employees around, and so that things don't get slow and work's not there from them, and then maybe they drift to catching some waves again or another job or out of the workflow. So kind of juggling that is very common with people come on the show. Next question I have here is, what are your biggest goals for your tree care business in the next 5 years, and how are you planning to achieve that?
So I'd say that the goal for this is actually, I want this to happen hopefully within the next 2 years, but my biggest goal for myself is to remove myself from having a crucial role in the company, so that I have a team that can handle the work, and I can go out and bid jobs and actually work on building the company instead of being the main individual who's running jobs and things like that.
Yeah, it makes sense. So you said hopefully within the next 2 years, and sounds like to make that happen, you probably have like a general manager or someone you're hoping to either hire that already has experience, or someone you want to groom to step into that role. Do you have a preference of kind of how that happens? I'm asking this question 2 reasons. One, I'm curious, and then 2, maybe someone on the show listening will hear this and think like, oh, you know what, Cliff? Maybe I'm that guy, and maybe they'll ping you, and that person could be found from the OutWork'em Podcast audience here.
Yeah, totally. So I'd say in regards to a general manager, I'm not necessarily looking for that. I'm more or less looking for somebody who's a climber.
Okay.
Ideally somebody who, they have their own vehicle, or they have enough resources to have their own vehicle, and they can climb, and they can basically do what I'm doing right now. And they would most likely be an employee, and I have quite a bit of work for them, and I could make it easy for them to transition out here if they don't already live here. And so someone who's willing to jump in and do, who can do more technical jobs, is also happy with doing some of the similar, more mundane jobs that we sometimes get that keep us going.
Yeah, it makes sense. So some of the people who can do the more technical work, sometimes they're not open to doing the more mundane jobs, not as fun. Is that something you run into?
Well, it's not necessarily that. So the thing is, like right now, like I work with a few guys who are, we call them, hired guns or hammers. They're incredibly fast. And I wouldn't use a guy like that on a smaller job. So what I'd be more looking for is someone who's at about my level, could be a little bit more advanced than me or a little bit less advanced. And so they can take on these bigger, more complicated jobs. It'll just take them a lot longer. And so someone who's still growing, and that's, I wouldn't expect them to take on anything that's super crazy, that's super dangerous, but basically someone who's well-versed enough that they're willing to sink their teeth into most things.
Yeah, makes sense. Nice. Well, this question makes me chuckle a little bit, but just because I know Cliff doesn't like being on the phone, on the technology too much. So the next question is, how do you leverage technology to improve your efficiency in your business?
Well, it's funny that you ask. So I don't use any technology in my business. I presume at some point when I have enough of a crew, I probably will be for, scheduling and routes and for, customer relationship management and things like that. But at the level that I'm at, it's where it's basically more or less trying to have one job per day. But with the marketing is where I've really used the technology. And actually, you've were one of the first people to really help get us kicked off. If you remember, we sat on this lanai out here with me, you, and another arborist who just came over from Florida. He was in the industry for about 10 years, and I sat down with the two of you guys, and you had so many incredible ideas, and I got a lot of customers through you. And what the realization through that was that my biggest challenge was fulfilling on the back end, but you helped get me kicked off. It basically helped us get launched. And so what I've found here is that the brute force marketing tends to work in this demographic. I don't think it works in some other places, but I think in smaller cities, I think the brute force marketing does work, and just consistency. Cold emails have done well for us. I actually have I actually just hired a firm today to do some cold calling because that's worked well for us in the past. And
Nice.
so at this point, we've got enough work where it feels really good. But when someone comes to me and is like, "Hey, are you still looking for something like cold calling?" I'm still totally open,
Yeah.
especially if they have the ambition, the gumption to do it.
Oh,
So.
that's awesome. So the brute force marketing combined with a little bit of technology on the marketing side, it sounds like you've hired some cold callers there. Are they booking phone calls for you, or are they booking appointments for you to show up at someone's house?
I was initially so they're booking phone calls for me. The reason is because it's so organic with my work. I'm typically scheduled about a week or two out, but with the text messages, I'll just either text them or call them, and then hey, I can come after this job or something like that. I'm not organized enough at this point where I could have someone scheduling appointments for me, especially because there's so much driving to do. So it's best if I just put them in my pipeline of calls or text messages, and I'm able to come visit their property when they have the opportunity.
That makes sense. And then the things that we had success with getting going was a lot of the cold email, but on like a little bit of a larger scale, just doing a little bit more volume there. I'm glad that's, you think you described it as a moment that made something click for you. I'm glad that's still keeping you busy, and you're able to combine that with, just being a great person in the community and having solid relationships with people and all that to keep your business thriving. So great work.
Oh, thank you.
This question I was really excited about. So my wife Jana, she recommended some questions for us to consider, and this one lit me up. How does your tree care business contribute to the health of the ecosystem, of the environmental health here on Maui?
Yeah, totally. So that's a great question. So when I got started, as you know, I lived on an organic farm. That was, that's what we were doing, was sustainability. So oftentimes, some of the work I do is removing invasives or pruning trees to make them healthier. And then on the other end is planting trees, which is really, really important, and something I'm working towards doing more of that. It's not as lucrative, but it's something that's really important to me. And sometimes people have, I talk about this with all the other people in my industry. They have crazy ideas, or they want to take a tree down that doesn't need to come down, and sometimes it's can be a conflict of interest, but talking them out of taking a tree down that they want to take down. They're worried about, oftentimes with HOAs, like insurance and things like that, and they're worried that some big tree's just going to come down. But these trees are a lot more stable than I think people think. So just negligent tree removal that's unnecessary.
Yeah. So how often is that the case? Like, are you finding yourself talking someone out of cutting down a tree once a month, once a week?
Well, I had one just the other day. I'll give you an example. I got a call. It was from a referral over on the west side, and it was a pretty big job. And I've actually got a guy who's a subcontractor. He has a landscaping firm, and this was like a half an acre or something like this. And there was a bunch of trees that they wanted to take out. And he has a lot of experience with different things in regards to landscaping. So I brought him over after I took a look at it, and he said that the trees don't even need to come out. They were set on taking all the trees out. I said, actually, what we need to do is take all of the fuel, all of the leaves, and all of the brush from the ground out. And the thing is removing trees actually tends to make things more of a fire hazard because the ground is drier. And so there's a concept called regreening the desert. I think there's a documentary about it. So basically,
regreening the desert.
Yeah, because when you cull
you recommend
trees,
it? That's pretty good.
Yeah, because
Cool.
when you
we'll
when
put
you
it in the
cull
show
the
notes. Regreening the desert.
when you cull the trees down, it desertifies the regions.
Okay.
There was so many areas that were covered in sandalwood on Maui that just got completely clear cut.
I mean, what you're talking about right now with fire risk is so present for a lot of people because of the unfortunate circumstances in Southern California recently, all the fires. So, knowing that Maui also had their tragedy here with fire, and I've heard a lot about the clearing of the brush and things like that ever since. But I was just curious. Would you say that you've seen a difference in the way that people are clearing brush and things like that here on the island since the fires have happened?
Yeah, totally. So a lot of the grasses and things like that, and sometimes I will get jobs like that, like they're on like a steep ravine or something like that, and they need somebody to weed whack, and so I'll rappel down, and so it's kind of like a specialty niche within tree work is doing technical things that involve slopes and heights and things like that. But yeah, that's all the time. There's people that want to, they're asking about the trees. They want me to come take a look at it, or they want to clear brush and things like that to prevent fire hazards.
That makes sense. I'm glad you're seeing a difference there, and you're able to help out for the people who might want to make a change because things have evolved and they're now more aware of these things. But yeah, being technically capable or having the tools and all that isn't always possible, especially here on the island. Sometimes people aren't always at their place. It might be a second home or a vacation home. So being able to give you a call and have you take care of it's awesome. Let's see. Anything come up or thoughts, ideas of anything you want to share with the audience based on what we've spoke about thus far? Really potential customers, potential employees, partnerships you're excited about, anything like that you want to call in or talk about related to Island Tree Style. If not, totally got a couple more questions here, but I wanted to make sure I passed it over to you for a little bit to flow.
Yeah, well, as I expressed, my biggest thing, there was a quote that I heard that, I'm one relationship away from changing my life or something along those lines. And I just think, finding somebody incredible who wants to get their career going and is excited about tree work, I'd love to meet you.
There we go. We'll make sure we clip that out. We'll pass that one along your way to share with the world, get more eyes on it. Before the podcast here today, we started talking about something that I was like, wait, we could save that for the podcast a little bit. But you mentioned climbing retreat or something of that nature on Kauai. Maybe you're going to meet some climbers there. Tell me about that a little bit.
So there's a climbing competition in Hawaii I think it's once a year. It's been on my radar. The guy that you met that we were sitting down and figuring out all the different places to target, he actually came to Hawaii through this climbing competition. He basically came and he wanted to stay. And so, I'm planning to go next month. And my hopes are to meet some really talented climbers who are interested in living here. And I think it's going to be a great recruiting opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. So if you're going to be at the tree climb show in Maui, it's in Kauai, right?
It's in Kauai.
If you're going to be at the tree climbing competition, what would be the best way? If, say, someone saw this that's going to be coming to the competition and they felt like they listened to the podcast and they wanted to get to know you a bit more and chat, what would be the best way for them to reach out to you prior or when they're there to connect?
Yeah, so I'll be wearing this shirt, and I don't know if you can see the phone number, but this is my phone number.
I'm going to call it out. 808-740-0488.
Yeah, and just reach out to me, and we can connect, and I look forward to meeting you next month.
Awesome. Last question here to send it off. What's the biggest lesson you've learned, like being an entrepreneur and running your business that's, either served you in business, with your life, or with your family in general? Really, the lesson learned from business for me sometimes extends its way out into other areas of my life and has exponential more benefits. So I like to frame the question that way, just to not limit your possibility of answers. So what's a lesson learned through entrepreneurship that you could share with our audience, share with the world?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I first got started, I didn't have anything. I had a friend that lived in the community. He had a camper van, and he let me rent it. He went out of town. I was renting it. I was just getting started climbing, and I talked him into letting me do a rent-to-own situation to buy his camper van. Mm-hmm. I was like 2 months into the agreement. I had, I think, $20 to my name. Mm-hmm. I had a quarter tank of gas and no food. I just remember, I remember, just how humbling that experience was. And mm-hmm. Whenever I didn't have work, I would go to the coffee shop, and I would be on my computer. I'd be sending emails. I'd sit in front of that computer, sometimes 5-6 hours a day, just email after email, building lists. And mm-hmm. There was some quote that I heard, is that you'll be where you get tomorrow because of the work you did today. And mm-hmm. I think at the end of the day, it comes down to persistence and to have faith there will be a better tomorrow because of the work mm-hmm. that I'm doing today.
Love that. So have a better tomorrow because of the work you're doing today. That's how I'm remembering it. Like, I'll remember the story, but as far as like a quote from Cliff, someday I feel like I'm gonna be telling someone that my friend Cliff shared with me, that the work I'm doing today is gonna give me the life I want tomorrow, something like that. Mm-hmm. I'll probably give you a call to remind me here and there.
Sounds great.
Well, it was a pleasure speaking with you, Cliff, today. Island Tree Style on Maui. If you want a career opportunity in the tree service industry, no matter where you're at in the country, it sounds like this could be a ripe opportunity for the right person. Also, if you're on Maui and you have any trees or work that's technical in that way, that a tree service specialist, tree care specialist would be right for, hit up Cliff. Get him 808-740-0488. I love his shirt with the awesome logo. I told him I can't wait to buy one. And yeah, drop a comment down in the show notes, below the show notes. Drop a comment. Let us know your favorite part. Ask some questions, and I'll keep an eye out for those questions or people saying they want to meet Cliff, and do my part to try and get you in touch with him, just in case he's up in a tree doing what he loves and not on his on the YouTube there. So, signing off here from the OutWork'em Podcast. Thanks for being on the show, Cliff.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Aloha.
Aloha.